Hopefully you guys have been enjoying these videos of me talking about TV shows and stuff because I've been really enjoying doing stuff like this because it's stuff I like to talk about. And plus I want to expose new people to some of these shows that are pretty obscure. And today I want to talk about a show that's actually probably really obscure and probably almost forgotten about at this point. I feel like, although the short video I did on it, some people were commenting like, "Oh, I remember this show," so maybe it's not as forgotten as I thought. But I don't see that many people talking about it online or on YouTube, for instance. So I'm gonna do it, and I'm not gonna do a whole super deep dive into the show, but I'm gonna just give my thoughts on each individual um, part or series, as they call it in the UK. But today, I'm going to talk about the Tomorrow People, the new generation. Or in the US, for us, it was just called the Tomorrow People. Because I'm pretty sure that we didn't get the 70s version. I'm almost positive. And it might have aired eventually, but I don't think it aired when it originally came out in the 70s in the UK because I believe it was a UK based show. And I'm not at all familiar with that show, but basically the gist of both of the Tomorrow People and maybe loosely the stupid CW one because there was that one. And that one I have no idea what it's like. I just know it was really bad and I had no interest to check it out. So, anyway, basically, the Tomorrow People, the original one from the 70s, dealt with a group of people that stumbled across. I don't know if they stumbled across them or like invented them or what it was, but they have these belts and they allow them to teleport places and maybe do other things. And I believe in the original series they call it jaunting or something like that. I don't really remember. um, from what I read. Like I said, I'm not really familiar with the 70s one for obvious reasons because I'm not that old. But like I said, I don't think that one was aired here until way late. I think I recall it airing at some point, like maybe a while ago, but I don't remember if it did or not. I could be thinking of the CW one, but I I vaguely remember it being on like sci-fi maybe or something years ago. I think the 70s one, not the 90s one. The 90s one has a different story here a little bit, or how where it got its start here in America. And I'm surprised they actually pitched it to like American audiences because most of the cast in the show, minus a few people like Lisa and Megabyte, are like UK or Australian. So um, that is kind of weird that like they basically pitched like a UK based show. It seems like, but they pitched it to Nickelodeon, and I guess Nickelodeon picked it up. I think it was done by like Thames or Entertainment or Thames Entertainment or something like that. But basically, the show is about basically the same thing. It's basically a reboot or a remake of the original, and I think someone that worked on the original had something to do with the original, like the first origin story, like season. I'm pretty sure. I'm not positive on that, but I'm like almost positive because I didn't do a ton of research on the original one because to do that I'd have to watch it, and I honestly don't want to because I don't know how well it's aged, and this one hasn't aged too terribly well either. But I still hold it like near and dear to me because it's very nostalgic for me. But anyway, they have the same kind of powers. The only difference is they don't use belts and they don't call it jaunting. They just call it teleporting. But they're basically they're basically the next stage in human evolution. They're all teenagers basically, and they can teleport. They can read minds, well, each other's minds. I think they with telekinesis with like I almost said telekinesis, telepathic powers, and they have like healing powers and like code cracking powers, like keypads and stuff like that. And then like almost like a second sight, like they can see things from like way far away. Like they can visualize things. They do that in one episode, and that's it. That's the only time they ever use that in one episode. I'll get to that in a second. But basically, it centers around Adam, Megabyte. Well, mainly just them two. Those two are the main two mainstays in the entire series. But there's always rotating like tomorrow people. Like the first season has Megabyte. Well, he's not a tomorrow person. Tomorrow. He is not a tomorrow person. God, I can't talk. In the first like part of this first season, but it's Megabyte, Kevin, Adam, and Lisa. And Adam is the first tomorrow person you see because it starts out with him washing ashore somewhere in the South Pacific. I believe that's where they say it is. And he stumbles across the spaceship and he goes inside. And then like he's looking around and then they cut to like Amy at this talent show eventually. And then like she teleports away. When they're basically in trouble, they all teleport back to that main spaceship, either inside or in the water or like right outside the spaceship. And in the first season, they always teleport in the water when they're like in danger, and then they just go to the ship. But later on, they just directly teleport back to the ship, like inside the ship. But basically, she teleports there. Adam finds her, explains to her what the Tomorrow People are. He's like, we're the next stage in human evolution, blah, 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 blah. She doesn't believe him. And then he finds out about Kevin. Yes, that's his name. Funny coincidence with that. Which I always liked that as a kid, that there was a kid on that show with my name. For obvious reasons. And you gotta remember, I was like 3 or 4 when I watched this. And I very, very vaguely remember watching this show. Very, very vaguely. Like, I'm talking like minute, very minute memories of watching this growing up. But anyway, so the first season basically them trying to avoid capture by government, but turns out the person in charge of the operation to get the teleporters, as they call them, is Megabyte's dad, General Damon. And when he realizes, because towards the end of the season, Megabyte finds out that he's a tomorrow person, like he teleports when he's in danger, because that's usually how a budding tomorrow person, how it happens. Like if they're in mortal danger, they'll teleport to the ship or in the water or whatever. But then when he finds out, he's like, well, I gotta call this off. But unbeknownst to him, the guys that are supposed to be working for him are working for some other British. I don't know who she is or what. Like she's just a super rich lady, and she wants the Tomorrow People for like to take over the world. I guess I don't like her motives aren't really clear. I don't think, but it is kind of cool because they actually do like use like they point guns at them and stuff. Like you don't see that in like kid shows anymore, like live action shows like that. You don't see like actual like guns, like prop guns and stuff like that. I'm sure they weren't real guns, but they were made to look real. But anyway, spoiler territory if you plan to watch it. By the way, before I continue, this is all on YouTube, so if you do want to watch it, I'll leave a link below in the description where you can watch the entire series in playlists. So it was 4K upscaled by like AI, so it's not perfect, but it looks a little bit better quality wise than this. But it's not much better because you guys gotta remember it's from the 90s. They probably didn't have a huge budget or like really good cameras and stuff like that. So it's still gonna be pretty grainy and stuff like that. So just take that with um like take what you see with what you see. And just remember it's from the early 90s, so don't expect too much from like a 90s TV show. But anyway, back to the spoiler. Or like I said, if you don't want to be spoiled, pause here and come back to it. Because I will be spoiling a lot of stuff in the series. So if you don't want to be spoiled, pause, watch the series, come back, and continue. Anyway, at the very end, like the one guy runs off because Megabyte's pointing the gun at him like this, and then he's like, no, and then runs off. And then General Damon takes the gun from him and throws it. And then the one old rich lady's in a helicopter, like pointing the gun, getting ready to shoot them. And Megabyte, Kevin, and I think no, Megabyte, Kevin, and just Megabyte's dad. I don't think Adam's there at that point. I think he teleports with Lisa's mom because they kidnap her. He teleports away with her to the ship or the shore, whatever. But anyway, so as she's going to shoot them, they all teleport to the end of the ocean. Like I said, in the first season, that's where they go when they're in danger. That's where they instinctively go. And you would think it was Megabyte that did it. But it turns out that it was his dad. So I guess his dad was always a Tamara person. But because at the end they're in the ocean, they're messing around, they're splashing each other, pushing each other. He's like, I did, I teleported. Like his dad's like all freaking out and excited about it. But the kicker is they never mentioned that fact ever again. And they do show Adam healing one of one of the other guys that's working for Damon at that point, healing someone with like a broken neck, or he might have been on the verge of dying. He heals it, but they never show that power ever again. Just that one part of that one episode. That's it. Like that's the thing that bothers me about the show now. Like watching it as an adult, you realize all these things they could have done. Like they show healing powers and all this other stuff, and they barely do anything with it. It's like, cool, you can heal somebody, but you only do it once, and that's it. Just like with Megabyte's dad, or Marmaduke. Marmaduke is Megabyte's real name, by the way, if you care. But his dad never, you see his dad again, and he never mentions that the fact that he can do it, unless he just forgot he could do it, or like it was just like fatherly parental instinct that did it, and they're trying to say like, every parent has that ability or something. I have no idea. That always even as a kid, I remember that annoying me a little bit. that he never did it again. Because I always thought that, because when I watched it again recently, because I literally just did watch, um, well, I remember the origin story because I watched it like a couple weeks ago. And then I took the DVDs from my brother to watch the rest because I didn't want to watch the raw files I have because it's annoying to have to close the files, open it if I want. I could just play it all and watch it all back to back. Anyway, but when I watched it, I was like, see, because I remembered that, but I was like, why didn't they ever mention the fact that his dad could do that? Like, what did they think kids wouldn't think that was cool that, oh, an adult can teleport? Because the thing about the 70s series was they were all adults, or most of them, I think, were adults. There was one teenager with them, I think, or maybe a couple at some point, but the main one was an adult, I believe. I'm pretty sure. But that always annoyed me about that because like with that with that whole thing because he was in charge of the teleporter project thing, but then like it's never mentioned ever again, and that was like they were acting like it was going to be like this big threat, but then I guess when General Damon calls it off, I guess the government was like, well, General Damon doesn't see a problem anymore with these teleporters, so we're just going to forget about it. I mean, I guess that's possible, but like, how much power does General Damon have in the government? Like, you think the government would want to, like, at least study them or something, but they never mention it ever again. Maybe because he's a secret tomorrow person, I guess? I don't know. But the fact that they don't mention it just boggles my mind. Like that, it's like the writers forgot about it. Like they forgot his dad was a tomorrow person or something. Because I know for a fact he says I teleported, looking at his son Megabyte, and I was like, okay, then why don't you mention it ever again? But anyway, the origin story is probably the best introduction to the series. If you like that, the rest of it's pretty good for the most part. The next one after that is probably my favorite one out of the bunch because it's honestly the most plausible villain type character. I could see actually like plausibly happening. Not like not anytime soon, but like you could definitely see someone, a scientist, doing this if they were deranged enough. But basically, the QX experiment is the next one. And basically, in Kevin's final appearance. And by the way, you never see Lisa ever again. She's never mentioned. She's never talked about. She's literally just gone. Like she never existed. I don't know why they did that because Lisa seemed like she could have been a really cool character because her mom coming to grips with her being a tomorrow person was kind of neat. But they never mentioned it again. And they replaced her with a character named Amy, played by actress Naomi Harris, who has been in movies like Skyfall and I believe one of the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. So you may recognize her from other bigger movies and roles. So that is kind of cool that um, this kind of got her foot in the door, kind of, I guess. Just weird side note here, I just thought of this. Weird trivia fact here about another Nickelodeon show, Are You Afraid of the Dark? Which I do plan to do a video about sometime in the future. Um, Nev Campbell actually did an episode of Are You Afraid of the Dark? So bigger time actresses and actors kind of get their starts on small shows like this. So it just goes to say that weird stuff like that can happen. But anyway, going back to Tomorrow People here. I always thought that was cool that Nev Campbell was in Are You Afraid of the Dark? But anyway, so Amy is going to see her mother from she had appendicitis or whatever, and she's drawn to Kevin because unbeknownst to her, she's a Tomorrow person. She doesn't know that yet, but she's like, because every Tomorrow person is telepathically linked, and I'll explain the teleportation thing in a second, like how teleportation works, because they kind of explain it in the origin story, but they explain it a little bit more in the Kulak experiment with Amy, because she runs into Megabyte and Adam and Kevin. He's in the hospital because he gets stung by one of Dr. Kulak's super mosquitoes that she creates from like all different types of like bugs and creatures that have stingers. Basically all different types of mosquitoes and all that jazz. She basically combines it into like a super mosquito that when you're bitten by it or stung by it, you instantly get put into a coma. And the only way to survive it is by the serum she created, which gets mentioned later on in that series. But anyway, they're in the hospital with Kevin because he gets stung by one. And they're all there, and she's like, "How do I know who you guys are?" And then they're like, "Well, you might be a Tomorrow person." And she's like, "What's that?" And then like Adam and Megabyte teleport away. They go to do something, I think at the spaceship or something. And then she was like, "Wow, cool." And then like she's going to get help or something. Eventually, like she finds her way to the ship, like she teleports there, and then they explain to her like, "Here's how the teleportation thing works." Basically, it's like super simple how they explain it, but like in all reality, like there's no way humans would evolve to like do this. I don't think. Like just like cognitively being able to just blip yourself somewhere would be like insanely like impossible and like insanely abused by people because you don't want a rando that's like a crook or something or an evil person or like a murderer or something being a possible teleporter. But basically they explain it like you have to focus your mind on a point you want to go to, an area, and focus your mind there, and then you'll go there and visualize it in your mind, and you'll go there wherever you visualize. So that's how they explain it. Which comes into play later on in one of the other series. But after they do all that, Amy gets kidnapped by Dr. QX. And she gets put into a chamber with one of the mosquitoes, and Adam and Megabyte have to teleport her out of there because she's too freaked out to use her powers. She hasn't really gotten used to it yet, using them. So she really doesn't know how to do it yet. But basically, Tomorrow people can get themselves or one other person out of a situation by teleporting them out there by like putting their hands up like this and then like focusing on that person, and I guess they just blip them out of there. I don't know what else to call it, but blipping. I don't know. Teleporting them out of there. I don't know. It literally looks like a blip. Okay, I'll show you a short clip of what the teleportation effect looks like. It's really cheesy, but I remember thinking it was. I remember as a kid thinking it was pretty cool. But here's the two different types of effects they use. They're basically the same, but they're a little bit different. But here they are. Okay, but see, like I said, it's kind of like a TV static, but they kind of give it a little bit of a flair to it. But I remember thinking that was like the coolest freaking thing. Like, What if that's what it actually looked like when you teleport? If it ever came to be, but I doubt it would be that. It'd probably be more akin to what it was in the newer uh, series. How it was like a Nightcrawler type thing where they it was like a quick little smoke, like, and that was it. I think that's how it was in the CW series. But anyway, so they get her out of there, and then they basically go back and find the try to get the cure because one of the there's a doctor in the show. I don't want to spoil too much of it, but I guess since I alerted you guys earlier, it's fine. But there's a doctor with a cloning device, and Dr. QX wants that because she wants to clone the mosquitoes and basically, I guess, release them all over the world. I have no idea. Her motives aren't really clear. Like, she just wants to have them as a biological weapon, I guess. I don't know, like, why, but whatever. But yeah, the doctor, I think her name's Dr. Connor, has a cloner, which, like, this is when I paused it when I saw that I was like, I vaguely remember that now, but I was like, the implications of like a cloning device like that with what she was doing, that would, because in a perfect world, like, I like what they did with that because she was actually doing good with it because she showed a single grain of rice like becoming like hundreds of grains of rice or thousands of grains of rice. Like, something like that would be amazing if we could harness that kind of cloning technology because then we could end world hunger and stuff like that. That's what she wanted to do, was end world hunger. And I felt like a writer kind of put that in because that was probably a writer's kind of doing because that was probably one of their dreams they'd like to see us to end world hunger. Because who wouldn't want to help out like third world countries or something like that? I know I would if I had that kind of ability or cloning technology. I would definitely help people out. But that's the bad thing about it is that's the reality check with this episode. That's why I really like this episode because something like that, it falls in the wrong hands, it could be dire consequences for the planet. And that's why I really like this episode because it brings it back down to earth. Like, look, this is why we have to be careful with what we invent. If we invent something like that, or someone does, and it's some crazy kooky person that is like hell bent on like world domination or something like that, then what can we do to stop them? No, nothing. If someone gets that kind of technology in the wrong hands, we're screwed. Like, as humans, honestly, we all have, to get kind of philosophical here for a second, to be all honesty with you guys, like, all of us have those tendencies in us to do something like morally bad. Like, how would you use a cloner? Most people would use it for good, but there are those people out there that would use it for nefarious reasons like cloning weapons or missiles or bombs or whatever. Like, that's the implications of it, and that's why I think the moral of that episode is like, be careful what you wish for, or be careful what we try to invent for ourselves, because if it falls in the wrong hands, we could be in deep doo doo. Because honestly, yeah, something like that would be good, but give it to the wrong person, and it could be very, very bad. But yeah, that's one of my favorite series of Tafari people, but just because it's kind of creepy because I don't like mosquitoes. I'm not really a big bug guy. But I don't like mosquitoes that really annoy me. And super mosquitoes that put you in comas. I don't know, it kind of freaked me out as a kid, but every time I get bit by a mosquito, I'm always reminded by Dr. QX. So yeah. Um Weird side note though, I just remembered this about the doctor from this episode. He actually does the voice of James Bond in a couple 007 games for PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2. So that is kind of funny because I vaguely recognize his voice and I was like, why do I recognize this dude's voice? Yeah, it turns out he does the voice of James Bond in the PlayStation 1 version of The World's Not Enough. So, or the N64 version, whatever. I guess either or. But I thought that was kind of funny. But yeah, like I said, QX is definitely like my favorite. Now this next one, Monsoon Man, I have fond memories of really enjoying this one like as a kid, but watching it now, I don't know. I'd have to knock this down to where I put the last one, Living Stones, because just the writing of this episode was just so weird. Like I like the whole weather because the whole point of this one is it's called Monsoon Man for a reason. Basically, there's a scientist that has a weather machine that they create, and basically, someone finds out about a journalist named Lucy, who starts kind of dating Adam, I guess, and then she finds out about it, she gets kidnapped. They try to find her, but eventually you find out that um, Colonel Cobb, the guy that runs the Sierra Corporation, the Triple C corporation, wants this machine to be the world's only producer of corn and cornflakes. And he said something that I literally dead stopped and I was like analytically analyzing, like talking to myself, like audibly talking to myself. I was like, okay, I'm gonna think of this rationally for a second, because he says that he has like billions of stalks of corn, like in secret locations, and I'm like, how could one company or one person amass that much corn? Because I looked it up, it was like 1.17 billion acres or something like that worldwide or something. Let me look it up again real quick to make sure I'm getting factual information for you guys. Okay, I kind of rounded it up a little bit because I had to find out what like the unit of measure that was um mentioned, but it's basically the God. Analyzing this, it just makes it sound more dumb. So, basically, there's no way one person or one company could amass that much corn because worldwide in 2021 there were like about hold on, let me double check again. Okay, I want to make sure I got that number right. There was around in 2021, mind you, so this is like 2 year old data at this point. But there was, and this is just corn. There was 509 million acres of corn harvested. Now, I believe if my numbers are accurate, because I just did a quick Google search, so take it with a grain of salt, no pun intended, but whatever. But basically, like, there's no way that would even remotely happen. Because that's what he wanted to do to become the world's leading, like, only corn producer. And I'm like, there's no way you would have a billion, like, billions of corn, like, kernels and seeds or whatever in your stockpile. There's no freaking way. Like that, you could feed the entire world already. Like, why are you not sharing that with the world anyway? Why are you trying to wipe everybody else out if you have that much amassed? Like, that doesn't make sense. But that's what I mean. Like overall, like if you don't analyze the crap out of it, like I just did, it's still like the weather thing. That would be kind of neat because I'm sure they don't say this in the show specifically, but I'm sure it can have the reverse effect because it could create thunderstorms, um, basically whatever weather you want, rain, thunder, ice, snowstorms, whatever. But maybe it might, hey, you could do the opposite effect. Maybe stop hurricanes, stop monsoons, stop typhoons, stop tornadoes, like stuff like that. Who knows? Would that is a weather machine going to be possible someday? I would I would venture to say yes, maybe, but not to the degree that it is on there because it's way too fantastical. And plus, the 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 prop for the weather machine literally looks like a small satellite, like one of them small satellite dishes. I don't know. It just looks really funny. But yeah. Overall, I didn't really enjoy that one as much as I thought I would have. Because I remember it being like from my memory, I remember it being one of my favorite things, like series from the show. But the next one, the Ramses connection, that one I really did like. That was probably my second favorite, just because of what the story and the lore is. Sorry I spent so much time on that. That monsoon man there, but that always really annoyed me with that. Um, but the Ramsey connection is really cool. And it brings up a glaring issue I have with the show. I'll get to that in a second. But basically, King Ramses is still alive and has survived for 4,000 years, basically. And he's under the alias of Sam Reese. And the entire episode is Megabyte, Amy, and Adam going to Cairo by themselves and learning all the origins of like the pyramids, how the pyramids, how like the pyramids have powers and all these shapes can generate energy. Like different shapes have different energy signatures, and the pyramid is like one of the most perfect energy sources on the planet. Basically, they can harness pyramid energy. I don't know. That part, it's kind of weird and fantastical, but it would revolutionize like energy production in the world. And they actually do say that. But the thing I find cool about it is the whole connection to the Tomorrow people in ancient Egypt. Because it starts out with Amy and Megabyte seeing a vision of a pharaoh like seeking their help. And it turns out it's King Tut. Cool thing was, according to Tomorrow People universe and lore, he was one of the first Tomorrow People. And I remember as a kid, I was like, that's really cool to think about. Because if you think about all the theories and conspiracy theories out there about the pyramids and how they were built and all these monoliths and megalithic structures out there in the world, how were they built? We don't really know. We still try to figure out how they're built. And of course, people say, oh, aliens helped build them. But what if it wasn't that? What if it was the pharaohs? They had special powers. We don't know. We don't know that. But the fact that they take that idea and run with it that way, I always thought was super cool. And even today, watching it now, I thought it was super cool. Because if you think about it, it kind of makes sense in a way. But basically, they find out that Sam Reese is really Ramses, and at some point, Amy gets controlled by a pendant necklace thing that she wears that Sam Reese can control her with, and he basically commands her to kill Megabyte and Adam because he knows what Tomorrow people are because he's aware of them because that's why he had King Tut killed. That's what they said in the show. I also found that kind of cool as well. That they basically said like King Ramses killed King Tut. I thought that was like a cool little concept there. But anyway, so she goes to Ramses' tomb with Adam and Megabyte, unbeknownst to them. Like she follows them because they have to teleport in there because it's under one of the pyramids in Egypt. So they have to teleport basically underneath the pyramid. And Megabyte even says, well, if we do this and we teleport in there and we're wrong, we're going to die because we're going to teleport into solid rock. So I guess they could potentially kill themselves doing this, which is really like weird to think about. Like if you teleport into a wrong area or like inside a solid object, you can instantly get crushed, I guess. And that's just a really weird implication to think about. But they weren't wrong. They're down there, and then like it starts to crumble because Ramses or Sam Reese makes it because it's booby traps, so he makes it crumble, and Amy tries to stop them from getting out, but they teleport out with her and they break the spell of the necklace. And she's like, I tried to kill you guys, I'm sorry, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, no, you were being controlled, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But then Adam's like, no, I gotta go back and confront Sam Reese. And so he goes alone. And it ends off on a cliffhanger. The fourth episode does. Because Adam tries to teleport out of there when he says when he's gonna stop Ramses, but when he tries to teleport out, he can't. Like you see the effect, but it doesn't do anything. He doesn't go anywhere because Ramses is stopping him. And then at the end of the episode, I don't know how to put it. Like he uses his eyes to like transport him to another dimension or something. I'm not really sure what it is because it's like a really weird, like they put a really weird effect. It's like this reddish orange, like negative effect. Like everything's like a reddish orange tinge and you can barely make anything out. It's really weird. But anyway, he stumbles across one of the people that know who they are, but they're also like kind of like an ancient mystic or something. I guess like a group of mystics. I don't really know that. They never really say who Millicent and her other friends are. I think they're like mystics or something. I have no idea. But basically, he tries to teleport him and her out of there, and he can't do it because I guess wherever he is blocking their Tomorrow powers. So he tries to contact Amy and Megabyte to transport him out of there. And they eventually do it, but it takes a lot of focusing and energy to do it, but they do it. So that was kind of cool. And this is why I wish they would have um, kind of stuck with this whole Ramses connection thing, because I feel like he could have been a better villain for the Tomorrow people, because he knew of them and he could potentially destroy them all. And they just easily thwart his plans for world domination, or the new order, or whatever he called it. But it basically ends with him saying, "Well, we did it," and then it just cuts to credits. Because I forgot to mention this. I think I'm sorry. Each series is 5 episodes long. So in 5 episodes, they kind of have to speed everything up. It's really quick. But I feel like this one would have made like a cool movie, or like a better, longer story. Because like I said, he actually could stop the Tomorrow people and their powers. And he could even control them. So like he had basically ultimate power. And they just didn't do much with it. But the one thing that really annoys me with that whole arc is the fact that they all teleport to Cairo by themselves with no adults. Amy's mom knows they're Tomorrow people, doesn't even go with them. They just go to Egypt by themselves, like 15, 16-year-olds, maybe 17-year-olds. I have no idea how old they are on the show. But the fact that they're in Cairo by themselves and no one bats an eye and like wants to know why a group of teenagers are just roaming around Cairo, Egypt by themselves, and no one finds it strange, because they don't look Egyptian, or like in any way like Middle Eastern, so they would stand out. I don't know, it just really annoys me when they like can travel halfway across the freaking planet by teleporting, and then like no one bats an eye that they're by themselves. And the mom's like, "Okay, just be careful." And I'm like, why would you go with them? You're an adult. Like, yeah, they have powers, but like they can only do so much. Oh yeah, and by the way, they don't even mention like healing powers, or like the keypad powers or whatever. They do use them in the Monsoon Man, the keypad thing. But other than that, that's it. That's the only use of the keypad powers that they use. I forgot to mention that. Because they never use it again. It's stupid. Like, I don't know why they do that. But whatever. It's almost like, I'm trying to think which show would be a good thing. It's kind of like almost like Dragon Ball Z in a way, like when people get like Super Saiyan or something, like they get abilities that they needed to get past an obstacle. Like that's what it feels like. It feels like they just give them things when they need. The writers just did that. And it just feels lazy to me. But overall, Ramsey's connection is probably another really good one to watch. I would definitely watch the first three for sure. Like, if you're gonna watch any of them, watch the origin story, QLEX, and Ramsey's connection. Those are the three I would recommend watching. Like I said, Monsoon Man, it's okay, but the Living Stones, I just watched this right before I did this video. Like I just finished it, like maybe an hour ago. And basically, I'm just gonna cut this explanation down to what this one is as quick as I can. Basically, it's like Revenge of the Body Snatchers, just with alien pods and like green, glowy mist that comes out of these pods, and takes over people's bodies and then basically drains them of their life and then moves on to a different host. And basically, they want to hatch these pods with this machine that a botanist builds. And basically, that's the entire series of that. But the one thing that bothers me about it is how it ends and the character they shoehorn in that I didn't mention in the Keylux experiment. In the Keylux experiment, there was a character named Jane that her dog got stung or bitten by one of the mosquitoes. And they never mentioned what happened to the dog. I guess it survived. I don't know. But she's never mentioned again until the Living Stones. And they really focus on her character a lot. For a reason. She's a budding tomorrow person. She doesn't know she is, and neither do Megabyte and Adam. Oh yeah, and you see Amy in the first episode. But she's moving to Australia for like studies or something. I don't know. It's weird. I guess they had to write her out. I feel like they had her in that series for longer, but they had to write her out because she got another acting job. I would assume is how that played out because it was just so weird and random. But yeah, it turns out like Jade finds out eventually that she's a tomorrow person because she gets in her and Meg like get in mortal danger, like he gets knocked out by something, and she teleports him out of there, and they teleport into the ship, and that's when she finds out that she's a tomorrow person. And Meg was like, "Well, I guess you always have been, and you're just now like awakening or blooming or however you put it." And I'm like, why did they shoehorn this character to get these powers now? Why didn't she bloom into a tomorrow person in the Keylux experiment? Because she had a motive to want to find a cure for her dog. So why didn't they shoehorn her in then instead of this? Like, yeah, her mom was being controlled by the Living Stones, but still, like, it just seems so dumb and like shoehorned in, like they need another female lead because Amy wasn't part of it anymore. I feel like that's why they did it. I'm not sure if that's why they did it, but that's what it seems like to me anyway. But basically, it ends off with them saving the day, basically, and like it ends off with Adam and Megabyte at her house talking about her being a tomorrow person. And it basically ends open-ended to where they basically tell her, like, hey, look, you're one of us now. And basically joking with her saying you gotta get used to Megabyte and his corny jokes. And that's how it ends. So they basically wanted to make her like a new addition to the show, but sadly it got canceled. And that's probably because the writing of that episode, that series, just wasn't that good. It wasn't super original. Because it literally felt like Revenge of the Body Snatchers. Kind of. And I believe they even, like, Megabyte, I think, makes a joke about that. Or something. Something to that effect. I don't know. Overall, that one wasn't that good. Like I said, I'd lump it in there with Monsoon Man. But I still have this nostalgia for that one. Like, I still enjoy that one. But, like, from a writing standpoint, I'd lump it in with the Living Stones. So, yeah, there you go. There's, like, my whole deep dive into Tomorrow People. I didn't want it to be, like, this long of a video, but I really do enjoy this show. And it's a really important part of my childhood because, and I'm going to kind of embarrass myself here. Growing up, I do remember Make Believe playing with my brother and our friends that we were tomorrow people. We would make up these weird stories, and I remember one specifically. We would always go back to the QX experiment, and our two friends would play the twins, and who would we get to play Dr. QX? I don't remember. My brother remembers. I'm sure he'll comment, and I'm sure he's gonna get a chuckle that I actually mentioned this in the video. But it is a really important part of my childhood because I loved doing that as a kid. I loved just playing pretend with my brother because it was just me and him back then. My younger brother wasn't born at the time. Um, when we first started playing around with that idea, but I have really fond memories of doing that. And of course, who do you think I played? I played Kevin, of course, because that's my name. Because you know, I was like, oh, cool, I get to be a make believe tomorrow person. So I always thought it was super cool and super fun that we did that as kids. And I know when we found out about this, when it got released, we were like through the moon excited to rewatch this show. And it was really cool to sit down and watch it with my brother all these years ago. Because these DVDs are actually his. I might buy my own copy for myself just because I enjoy it so much. And I don't want to keep having to borrow his copies every time I want to watch it. So, yeah. But anyway, I really enjoyed the show, and I think you guys will too. If you give it a chance, let me know what you guys thought about it. If you actually did grow up watching it, do you do you have memories of liking it? Do you still enjoy it today? And to anybody that's watched the original '70s one, is it worth checking out? Should I watch that one as well? Let me know in the comments below because I am mildly curious about the original one as well, just because I know that's where this one got its start. So anyway, guys, hope you guys enjoyed this long video. I haven't done a video like this long in forever. That's not me bitching about something, but this one was actually really fun to do because, like I said, I love the Tomorrow People, and I know my brother's probably gonna watch this entire video and comment on his memories of hopefully his memories of actually watching the show as it aired because I have very, very faint, vague memories, like I said. But I really enjoyed this show, and I hope you guys give it a chance. Anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Shouts to all my Patreon supporters. Thank you guys for supporting my channel. You guys know who you are. I'm not going to do a shout because this video is already long enough. But thank you guys for supporting me. Vic Gomez, everybody else that supports the channel. Thank you guys so much. I really do appreciate it. Thanks for watching. Peace.